Welcome to Orphaned Entertainment. I'm your host, Christopher, and with me is the woman you delay, you know. It's Lydia.
Yeah! I did not know you were going to go for a yodel.
It actually didn't come out as well as I had hoped.
Well, it's hard to match Roy Rogers' yodeling, so...
Yes. Very true. So how have you been, Lydia?
I've got to rein it in. I've got this song stuck in my head that we'll talk about in a little bit here. But let's just say ringing the bell. Just ringing the bell.
Good. Well, before we go any further, thanks to everyone for tuning in to this month's episode. Orphaned Entertainment is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and wherever you choose to listen, if you have the option to do so, please rate and review the show. That helps get the show in front of more eyes and hopefully in more ears. Another great way to help is just by sharing the episode you are listening to on whatever social media platform you use. You can follow the link in the show notes to all our social media sites, as well as find our YouTube channel, where you can watch many of the films that we have covered here on the show. If you would like to email us with any comments, suggestions, or feedback on this or any episode, please type or record a message and send it to orphanedentertainment@gmail.com. Now let's listen to an Ellery Queen 1-minute mystery and a promo for another podcast. And when we return, we will head out onto the range under Western stars.
Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with a case I call the Lady Spectator. I had a late call from a philanthropist named Carter who said he'd received an old diary that was of great historical importance. He asked me to examine it, and I did. Written in a lady's hand, the diary described the meetings of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia with marvelously written eyewitness accounts of the events. I turned the diary back and said, the lady writes well, but it's a fake. In a moment, I'll tell you why.
The best of the best, and the worst of the worst, and the one where all the characters curse.
Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and Letterboxd all want to stick a simple rating on what we watch. But where's the nuance in that?
A popular movie doesn't always age well, and who cares if the critics didn't like it? We here at Good Movie, Bad Movie believe every film has an audience.
So join us for the good, the bad, and the so bad it's good, such as The Godfather,
Back to the Future,
Gigli,
Jaws,
Young Frankenstein,
Manos, The Hands of Fate,
Killer Clowns from Outer Space,
and Plan 9 from Outer Space. New episodes every other Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on Instagram at Good Movie Bad Movie Pod, or write to us at goodmoviebadmoviepod@gmail.com.
Or join us on our Discord server by searching Good Movie, Bad Movie.
The cream of the crop and the box office flops. They will always be there to watch. Good movie, bad movie with Allie and Matt.
In the case of the Lady Spectator, the sessions of the Constitutional Convention at Philadelphia were held in secret. She couldn't have been an observer, so whoever wrote the diary didn't bone up on history. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Under the Western Stars is a 1938 Western directed by Joseph Kane. It stars Roy Rogers, Smiley Burnett, and Carol Hughes. This is Roy Rogers' first starring role. Prior to this, he appeared in numerous films as a bit player or a singer as part of the Sons of the Pioneers group, which he co-founded. And he replaced Republic Pictures singing cowboy star Gene Autry, who had walked out over a salary dispute. In the film, a water company's refusal to provide free or cheaper water for the ranchers suffering during the Dust Bowl causes strife leading to armed conflict between a gang of ranchers and the dam's guards. Coming to the aid of the ranchers, Rogers is arrested and taken into town. There he is recognized by the mayor as the son of the late state representative. Encouraged to run in an upcoming election to become the new representative, Rogers does so under the promise of getting the federal government to help with the locals' fight with the water company. Winning the election proves to be only half the battle, as the water company's owner, John Fairbanks, is willing to use any trick in the books he can to keep control of the water, and even the encouragement and help from Fairbanks' daughter Eleanor may not be enough for Rogers to win the day. Roy Rogers was born Leonard Sly in Cincinnati, Ohio. The family lived in a tenement building near the Ohio River where the former baseball stadium later constructed. Rogers used to joke that he was born at second base. The family moved up the river to Portsmouth, Ohio, then Lucasville. Rogers' father farmed and also worked at a Portsmouth, Ohio shoe factory to make ends meet. On the weekends, the family would often invite friends and neighbors over for square dances where Rogers would sing, play mandolin, and yodel. Quitting high school after only 2 years to help the family out financially, Rogers and the family returned to Cincinnati to work at another shoe factory where Rogers also found a job. Around 1929, Rogers' sister had married and moved to Lawndale, California. Rogers visited and stayed 4 months before returning to Cincinnati, and soon after the entire family packed up and moved, renting a small home, and father and son worked driving gravel trucks for a highway construction project. Encouraged to audition for a local radio program by his sister, Rogers appeared on KMCS radio in Inglewood, California, where he played guitar, sang, and yodeled. A few days later, he was asked to join a local country music group, the Rocky Mountaineers. The following year, Rogers and fellow group members Slumber Nichols and Tim Spencer left the group to create a trio. The trio wasn't successful, and Rogers floated from group to group for a while until he, Spencer, and Bob Nolan joined together and started the Pioneer Trio. In 1934, they added a fiddler and changed the name to the Sons of the Pioneers. The group's popularity spread, and they found themselves appearing on radio programs across the country, and in the summer of 1934, they signed a record deal with Decca. They would record over 32 songs for Decca, including Tumbling Tumbleweeds and Cool Water. Moving from radio and film in 1935, Roy Rogers first appeared as a supporting actor and singing cowboy, still billed as Leonard Sly. Winning the role as a lead in Under the Western Stars and given the stage name of Roy Rogers, he became an instant success and a competitor for America's favorite singing cowboy against Gene Autry. Starring in his own movies, he also appeared in supporting roles, like in John Wayne's film Dark Command, where he met one of his future sidekicks, George "Gabby" Hayes. Rogers became an idol for many children through his films and television shows. Most of his post-war films were in color, during an era when almost all other B-westerns were black and white. With money from Rogers' films and from his public appearances going to Republic Pictures, he bought a clause into his 1940 contract with the studio where he would have the right to his likeness, voice, and name for merchandising. There were Roy Rogers action figures, cowboy adventure novels, and play sets, as well as a comic strip, a long-lived Dell comic book series, and a variety of marketing successes. Rogers was second only to Walt Disney in a number of items featuring his name. Roy Rogers had married several times, and his most famous relationship was with Dale Evans, whom he met in 1944 while working on a film together, and he later married her in 1947 after the 1946 death of his then-wife, Grace Wilkins. Their signature tune, Happy Trails, was written by Evans, and it was their closing duet for their television show. Last bit of trivia. It was under Western Stars that Roy Rogers first worked with his horse, Trigger. Originally named Golden Cloud, the horse had been previously seen being ridden by Olivia de Havilland in 1938's Adventure of Robin Hood. Rogers would eventually buy the horse for about $2,500 in 1943. Trigger learned 150 tricks. He could sit in a chair, sign his name as an X with a pencil, and lie down for a nap and cover himself with a blanket. And Rogers' most carefully guarded trade secret was to get Trigger housebroken, which was a handy ability when you spend so much time in hotels, theaters, and hospitals. Roy Rogers made many personal appearances with Trigger in tow, and according to his autobiography, Happy Trails, more than once he escorted him up 3 or 4 flights of stairs to hospitals to visit with sick children. Trigger became the most famous horse in film entertainment, even having his own Dell comic book recounting his exploits. I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's so fantastic. I didn't actually realize when we picked this film that this was like Roy Rogers' like big break.
Yeah.
And then the fact that the film would also introduce him to his second famous co-star.
Yeah,
next
his
to Dale
iconic
Evans.
pairing, absolutely. Without Trigger, Roy Rogers is Roy Rogers, but it's always Roy Rogers and Trigger, just like it's the Lone Ranger and Hi Ho Silver Away. The horse is half of the whole coolness about it. I had no idea this is when they were first introduced to each other. You stole my thunder. I had a little bit about Trigger too, of course. And it was interesting. I saw that there were actually many horses that they brought in for him to try out. And you already mentioned that as soon as he tried him, it was pretty much love at first ride. Don't, but I'm sure on that, please. The thing you didn't mention, this is interesting. So Roger's co-star in this is Smiley Burnett. He was in a few other movies with him as well. And apparently Smiley is responsible for the name of Trigger. Apparently he said, Roy, as quick as that horse of yours is, you ought to call him Trigger. And then after that, he was renamed to Trigger.
Oh, awesome. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I found a little article. I was looking for pictures of Trigger. Also found out... there's so much to do about Trigger. Trigger was, after he died at the age of 30, was then mounted and on display. And as far as I know, is still available for viewing, but I think is privately owned now by a company.
I believe he was in a museum, but the museum closed and everything was auctioned off.
Yeah, but interestingly, there were 2 other Triggers. There was also a Trigger Jr., and then I forget what the other one was called, but you can tell which one is the real Trigger because both of the other Triggers have 4 white socks, like 4 tall white legs, and he only has 1 on the back left. So if you're watching and you see a trick happening on the screen, there were other horses that were used for that, but you can always tell which one is the genuine, or the original Trigger, I should say, because of his feet.
Oh, excellent. I will ask. I'm going to keep my eye open for that if I watch any more Roy Rogers films.
We're all going to go back and watch Roy Rogers in slow motion now just to look at the horse's feet.
Well, I'll tell you, I could almost watch more films just to watch Roy Rogers ride. Mm-hmm. He glides in that saddle. It is almost unnerving to watch because his upper body doesn't move an inch while that horse is galloping through the desert. It's astonishing.
He rides correctly, which is really a lot of fun. I mean, you see a lot of actors from this era that actually were properly able to ride. But I think nowadays you don't see that very often. If you're watching English shows, British shows, you'll see people that can actually properly ride. But you see a lot of American movies where it's pretty obvious to anybody that's ridden, this actor has never been on a horse before or not very much. So it is amazing to watch him. They do more than one shot of them galloping through the desert, and you can tell there's a camera on a truck just zooming along next to him, and you can tell Trigger's going full out. And you're exactly right. Rogers is just like nailed to that seat, not moving at all, which is how he should ride. That's the correct way to do it. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it really is. You talk about Smiley Burnett. He was actually more known as this kind of the sidekick to Autry. A lot of the other stars in this film were regulars with the Autry films. And so it was Roy Rogers kind of stepping in and then literally taking Autry's place in his movie.
Yeah, interesting.
Very interesting. And I mean, nowadays I feel like you would be hearing about all kinds of animosity because, you're not Gene Autry. I work with Gene Autry. Yeah. This one, if there was any, it certainly doesn't show. Everyone acts like they've been acting together for years.
Yeah. Well, you definitely, to me, Roy Rogers in this, and he's clearly very young, no question he's super young in this, but he just seems kind of like a kind of passive, like really pleasant person. And he doesn't, I don't know how far the word acting applies to him in this movie. There are other actors in this movie that are very clearly acting, and not necessarily in a bad way even, but, they're putting a lot of effort into it. And he kind of, I almost would just say kind of glides through the scenes just as this really likable guy that kind of, he's just a duck and the water just rolls off his back. And I kind of get the feeling that's not a characterization. That's just kind of how he was.
Yeah, you feel like you are watching Leonard Sly, and this is how, he would just interact with all these people if it happened in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's a lot of fun to watch. I think the other interesting thing, Carol Hughes, the female lead in this movie, and I don't think you'd call her the love interest exactly. It's kind of I think there's the implication there that there's meant to be a romantic interaction between them, but nothing ever happens between them.
Well, I think there's suggestion by the crowd that the two are going to go off and get married or something like that. But that could just as easily be written off as just that's your friend ribbing, oh, you're going to marry her now kind of thing. Yeah. I have a song about that. But
yeah. And there's no passionate kissing or even sweet kissing. There's no, holding hands and saying, I really like you even. There's just a general, her kind of being a little bit mischievous, which she is fun. Her character in this is pretty darn fun. But not really any romance, I would say. But it was fun. I think the only thing really I have to add about her, and I got confused about this, he was married to Dale Evans. She played the 1940 Dale Arden, Carol Hughes did, in Flash Gordon.
Okay,
and so I had a moment where I was looking through the history on this, and I kept getting confused.
Which Dale?
Wait, but no, his wife doesn't look like this. So that's just that's a funny little side note.
When the first time we sat down to watch like a Western on this show, I think this is kind of what I was envisioning it would be like.
Yeah.
This is the quintessential, like, I know it's 1938, but this feels like, the 1940s, 1950s quintessential Western that you always see kind of portrayed in like Leave It to Beaver episodes or something like that, where the kids are going to put on their frilly shirt and wear their hat and pretend that they're the cowboy or whatever. These are the movies that I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Where it is just, the good guys wear white, the bad guys wear black. Everyone can shoot a gun out of people's hands. No one dies.
Yeah.
And maybe they're just going to decide, oh, you know what? This reminds me of something. And there's a song.
Yes. Yeah.
But there is no romance. There's no kissy because you're not going to want to turn off those 9-year-old boys going, ooh, he kissed the girl.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. There are definitely the mature themes in this have nothing to do with sexuality or romance. They've got more to do with politics. They've got more to do with I would say, farmers' rights, human rights. They've got more to do with, it's interesting to be watching a movie from this era and seeing things like the evil water company cutting people's water off because they're not paying enough, and think, well, gosh, this is 1938. We're almost 100 years from here. We're almost 100 years after that. We're, 85 years after that. And we're still seeing really similar themes in life. I think that's what's so interesting about this movie is you're still seeing the individual struggling for what's right or just for what allows them to live the way that they need to, just fairly. So I don't want to get deep into the weeds on that. And I think that everything is handled in a very lighthearted, fun way. There's, some ribbing, and there's some what's the word that I'm looking for, where they're going around and they're trying to drum up interest, and somebody gets dumped in a horse tank and stuff like that. But none of it is like mean natured. It's really interesting that really near the beginning, after Rogers gets arrested by the sheriff for holding up the water company, essentially, as they go and they run into the mayor says, "Oh, no, I better punish you." And he turns and he winks at the sheriff. And so even though the sheriff has arrested Rogers, you get this real clear message that he's doing his duty because he's the sheriff. But he even has said at that point to the owner of the water company, "Well, why don't you just give him more water?" And so even though he's the sheriff, and usually in what we would see a little bit later in some more dramatic kind of versions of this type of story, the sheriff is an evil guy, or the water corporation's trying to kill people or whatever.
You're right. In almost every other film that you ever see, the law is always in the pocket of whatever CEO of whatever company, the water company, the power company, whatever it is. Yeah.
It's either they're Wyatt Earp, or they're in the pocket of the big bad guys. And so this is an interesting, you do have the evil water company, but even the evil water company isn't so over the top evil that nobody, there's no reconciliation. It's almost like as soon as that's resolved, like everything's fine. So it feels very, you didn't use the word immature, and I'm not sure that's the word that I want to use, but like kid-friendly, very simple. It feels like a serial cowboy story rather than a cowboy movie.
I think it's interesting that the themes are very much makes this sort of like a message film, but there's still plenty of just cowboy action. I mean, this is like the really great like family matinee film.
Yeah.
Because there's the stuff that the adults are going to kind of understand and get. Mm-hmm. And then there's plenty of stuff for the kids to enjoy as well. Mm-hmm. It's a real all-rounder.
Yeah, there's something for everybody.
Yeah. I think as a message film, I think it's really interesting to see one from this era, because it does deal with things that are happening, out west. The Dust Bowl is a thing. People are suffering from this calamity, and it does feel like something that someone went, we need to let more people know about this. Let's make this and make it our movie. Let's make that the central theme of this film, so the people in New York will know what's going on in Wyoming and Arizona. I don't think they actually even mention what state this supposedly takes place in. They keep it kind of vague. It's just it's west.
Yeah,
it's in the desert. It's out west. And even when he shows the video, which I think is a really great and actually very kind of powerful moment, is when he's showing the video of the farms and the ranches swallowed by these dust storms.
Yeah.
And he's singing the song Dust.
These first scenes are the way our ranches used to look. Every range had grass like that in the summer. One winter covered it with snow. We had plenty of that good alfalfa for feed. We fattened our beef on that grain. Every valley and every canyon had a stream of running water. Then nature took a hand. Every year we had less and less rain. This is what happened. Dry spells, drought, and dust storms. After the dust storm, this is what is left. That's Glenn Saunders' house. He lost his 2 children from dust pneumonia. That's Luke Chalmers' place. He just gave up and moved away, never even stopped to dig up his equipment. Those cattle are Dave Peters. He lost 150 head, which meant every cent he owned. All of this tragedy and ruin, ladies and gentlemen, because of lack of water. In times like these, folks just naturally turn to prayer. Dust, dust, dust in the skies, dust on the trail, dust in my eyes, dust, dust. Can't see the sun, Can't find my way, the dust has won. The cattle and the sheep bedded down to sleep seem to realize their fate. The vultures in the sky know the time is nigh. Will they fly away or wait? Oh Lord, please ease my pain. Oh Lord, where is your rain and sunshine? Dust.
Then in the story, it's later revealed that all those clips didn't come from his state.
Right.
It just says
Another state.
another state.
Yeah. Yep. I just ran across a little bit of information I wanted to share. Apparently, the term Dust Bowl was actually coined in 1935. This is a 1938 movie. That term first appeared, it was coined by a reporter. And so now I'm really curious if at the very beginning, there are some news articles that spin up onto the screen. And I'm really curious now if those are actual articles from that time. I have no idea. That would be something that probably a film historian could really dig into and enjoy. But that'd be really interesting if that were the case.
I wonder if there's any indication, if they are real articles. I wonder if there's any indication about where they're coming from as far as city or state, or just even the title of the paper. If you could kind of glean where they're coming from.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing a title or a newspaper name on the top of it. It made me think. It made me think a lot of. I think the movie was A Year Without a Santa Claus, and it was a Rankin Bass claymation, and Santa Claus gets sick and they're canceling Christmas. It just made me think of that because it has a real similar effect to it. Totally unrelated, but it gave me a little bit of a chuckle when I saw that.
This isn't a film that I would say would maybe be for everyone, because of the immediately break into singing cowboy mode.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. For some reason, I just didn't connect Roy Rogers with a musical. I should have. That was an oversight on my part. And it's not a musical the way we think of it, but there's a lot of music in it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But it's not a musical like on the other podcast on Time Shifters. By the time this comes out, we'll have aired an episode where we talked about the original Phantom of the Opera silent film.
Yes.
And also the 2004 musical film. And one of our complaints of the 2004 was that it's just conversation being sung. And that annoyed us. That's silly. So in this film, there's no conversation. It's just, the first song we hear is after a shootout. We get a shootout at the dam and this and that, and Roy Rogers has been arrested, and they're riding back into town, and
Don't be downhearted, Sheriff.
You won't be so chipper when you get behind bars, Roy.
Behind jail bars, huh? Well, Sheriff, that reminds me. Send my mail to the county jail.
Send our mail to the county jail.
Tell our saddle pals tonight they've got some news to write. Send our mail to the county jail.
Say goodbye to your favorite gal. Say goodbye to your special gal.
We're supposed to have a date, but we reckon we'll be late. Say goodbye to my favorite gal.
Yes. Yeah, but which is pretty much, how I operate in my daily life. Somebody will say something to me and I immediately burst into song, but it doesn't have the same effect because everybody doesn't ride along on horses next to me smiling and joining in. They look at me like I'm crazy. So.
Well, we need to start riding more horses, Lydia.
Oh, gosh, we all need to start just bursting into song.
That's
more
what's
often.
Missing. Yep.
Yeah.
The song that everybody knows.
Yeah, and everybody knows spontaneously. It just drops into their heads without ever having heard it before.
Right. But it's actually, I don't know, there's something sort of just fun and quaint and kind of comfortable about that. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's almost like is that like a race memory thing? that our forefathers enjoyed this sort of thing so much, and now somewhere there's some little cells inside of our brain that just when it happens, you're just like, huh.
That's a really funny thought. Yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of goes back to a little bit of there's something for everybody in this movie. He sings a song about his guardian angel back home, his mama or his mother or something like that. And I'm like, well, no, they're hitting like every point there. They got the young guy that can sing to appeal to all the kind of young women. They got the horse riding and the shootouts to appeal to the boys and the young men. And then they got, the political drama for the, adults. And it made me laugh. It really does. It works so hard to appeal to everybody. You've got Western scenes. You got like English fox hunting scenes. You have people, and I loved this, in full 1930s evening dress doing square dancing. And it's like, it's kind of fun. And it's kind of just, they were like, let's see how much of a mashup we can make this. Let's have an 1800s shootout at a 1900s dam. And I was really confused at the beginning because there's a couple, like there's a water truck or something at the very beginning that made me think this was set in like the 19-teens. And then when they are in Washington, they get into a car from the late 1930s. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wait, what, what era is this meant to be? We literally are having like 6-shooter shootouts, but then obviously the dam is a new construction. It's not like an old water mill from the 1800s. So yeah, it feels like it's spread across so much that I think that the thing that's most baffling about it is that it's not more confusing and that it doesn't feel more disjointed. It all kind of flows, even though you're going from these what seems like a completely different setting into a very modern setting. It flows together. It's hard to explain. It's such a strange movie.
It is.
It's uncomfortable though.
Big mashup. It is this big mashup with adult themes and childhood, fantasies of
Tropes.
Cowboys and shootouts and horse riding and all this stuff, and a little bit of, like you said, not romance, but
interest,
between
romantic interest.
The lead and the two leads there and everything. And then there's a little bit of a slapstick comedy that's thrown in with Smiley and his horse that used to be an old fire horse and goes tearing off after any bell that he hears ringing. All that is in this film, and weirdly, it all works.
Yeah.
The whole film it's entertaining.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie, it's kind of hard. It's hard to classify. It's considered a Western, but it's really a political drama. I'm sure that it was marketed as being somewhat romantic, but there's very, very, very little romance in it. I would even argue that the purported love interest is really she's more of a comic relief. Mm-hmm. Do you beat your daughter? No, but it's not a bad idea. And her face, puffing out her cheeks and all. She's very funny. Her character is very funny. The comeuppance of the rich Washington people getting, stuck out in the desert because they won't fix the water issue. There's so much about it that it feels like there's a lot more movie in this movie than in most movies.
It packs a lot in the 65 minutes.
I can't believe it's only 65 minutes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's so wild. And it gets like 5 or 6 songs in. So it's 65 minutes with 5 or 6 songs. So it's very short.
And still a coherent story.
Mm-hmm. And still a lot of stuff happening. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think if you wanted to do a masterclass on how to write like an entry-level movie, this is not a bad movie to review for that. they're not out there winning Academy Awards on this, but it's a coherent movie that keeps your interest and that appeals to a broad audience. And that's actually really hard to do.
I've already mentioned it once, the scene with the video, the film showing
Yes.
the Dust Bowl and then the song that goes with it, and that's a bit of a heavy moment.
Mm-hmm, it really is.
But just prior to that is a very lighthearted, and it's got Smiley Burnett doing his little song and dance and everything, and then you shift into this, and then this followed with more comedy.
Yeah.
And honestly, it feels like all of this should be a train wreck, and somehow it all works.
Well, I think you called it a message movie, and it is, but I think they couched the message very carefully. Or maybe I'd be really interested to know what the writer's room looked like on this one, because it's very, very obvious that they're taking an incredibly serious situation that's happening at this moment in real life and trying to bring it to people's attention. But they're able to do it like today. If they made this movie, it would be a drama, and there would be lots of people yelling in courtrooms and people in tears, and inevitably somebody or somebody's dog would die. They would make it'd be very heavy-handed. But even though this is a message movie, they play it all very lightly, and they don't, for lack of a better phrase, they don't pull the punches about how serious this is, but they actually give a very kind of real solution inside the movie itself. Mm-hmm. They're saying, very clearly they're saying, look, this is a problem. And, either the politicians can fix it, or, hey, let's just maroon them all out in the desert. And they're very clearly presenting a solution here. And I think it's interesting that they do that. But they also, again, if that was today, then 2 of the politicians would die of thirst in the desert. Right?
Oh, yeah, there's going to be a rattlesnake bite. Someone's going to fall off a cliff.
Absolutely. Somebody's going to get assaulted and all kinds of other stuff. But they, I think, and I wonder how much of that is a product of the time, a product of the era where you couldn't have made a movie like that back then. Even, one of the most dramatic movies we watched, Rain, you still aren't getting just beaten over the head with misery. There's drama and there's a lot of intensity going into it, but they're not, oh gosh, they're not just screaming down the lens of the camera at you, which is a nuance that we have lost in modern society. It's possible to get a message across without screaming.
This is, I think, what's the phrase? It's an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove.
Yeah. Yes.
It's kind of
walk
how
softly
I feel.
And carry a big stick, I think. But no, your analogy is closer. It definitely is a very serious message. But you let's see how many we can come up with. You attract more flies with honey.
But I think that is exactly what they were trying to do with this film. They were trying to convey a very heavy subject, but not beat it over your head.
Not alienate people.
And the comedy, when it happens, it's not so over the top. There is some moments that are supposed to be really super slapstick, but they are in moments of the film where you don't have the heavy drama before and after.
Yeah.
And so when they slip in a little bit of fun around the more dramatic moments, even the comedy is a little bit more subdued. Mm-hmm. There was one good line, I think, that helped kind of break the tension after the film. Roy Rogers shows the film. He sings a song. It's a very kind of gut-wrenching sort of song, and the stories he's telling and everything. And then there's the one wife of one of the politicians. She's like, if you don't help those people, I'm going to divorce you. It's like, well, as tempting as an offer that is, I think I'll help them anyway.
Yeah. There's a lot of, even though there is a lot of humor in it, like you mentioned, we've seen some other films where the slapstick is so over the top that it's painful. And they don't cross into that with this film. It's the slapstick that is done is is kept brief enough to be humorous. As we all know, brevity is the soul of wit. and within the realm of the story itself, you have things happening that could really potentially happen in that situation. So yeah, it's such an interesting movie. It's funny that it's such a short movie because, again, it feels like we could talk about it for a really long time, but we pretty much have talked about all of it because it's just not very long. So I guess we could, Christopher and I have been practicing one of the songs. We're going to sing that for you now. No, I'm totally kidding. That's not going to happen. But it is a 60-minute movie with 5 or 6 songs in it, a 65-minute movie with 5 or 6 songs. There's just not a lot to it, but it still manages to be entertaining and captivating, I think. Enough, even now, I think, gosh, if you're a teacher and you're doing a segment on the Dust Bowl or on the Great Depression, this would be such a fun movie to show your kids. Like this would just be such a good one to bring back and say, hey, you know what? We're going to watch something from that era that talks about the serious themes without just making kids go home and cry themselves to sleep.
Especially younger kids, like middle school or younger. This would be a fantastic little entry into the subject.
Yeah, it's U.S. history, and you're getting to see not only film history, but also actual, political history and economic history. So it's almost like a time capsule. But a fun time capsule, not one that you open up and then go, oh, what's this? When you open up and go, oh, wow, I didn't even remember that I owned this. But hey, how fun to pull it out.
I feel like we could almost jump right into ratings and everything and closing thoughts on this.
I think so.
Because in my head, some of the things I want to say just sound like closing thoughts and everything.
Yeah.
I find this film amazingly rewatchable.
Yeah.
I mean,
surprisingly, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. And granted, I think a little bit of that, there's a little bit of nostalgia for me because I do remember as a kid growing up on our local UHF station, they would show Roy Rogers Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting there and watching the two of them singing Happy Trails at the end of the shows and everything. Mm-hmm. So there is that little bit of nostalgia for me that I have watched these types of Westerns, as a child. And so watching this again, kind of finding it, okay, this is what I remember watching. This is what I remember. This is a Western to me.
Yes.
I love Silverado, don't get me wrong, but in my head, when I think of Western, I don't think of Unforgiven or I don't think of Tombstone or anything. Mm-hmm. I think of Roy Rogers.
Yeah, and even if you want to go with, what's the one with John Wayne where he's searching for the little girl?
The Searchers?
The Searchers. What's that movie where...
I honestly don't know for sure.
What's that movie with Gerard Depardieu where he's trying to get a green card so he marries Andy McDowell?
I don't know if that is the...
It is The Searchers. No, it is. And a lot of people, they think of Westerns and they go with The Searchers, for example, or Fort Apache. And this is just, even though those are, yes, technically Westerns, this is a different genre than that. It is, like you said, kid-friendly. It's chipper while still tackling some maybe serious themes.
It's a matinee Western.
It is. And you know what's really funny is thinking about it cased in those terms, the closest thing I can think of to it is like Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah. Yes.
So on that thought.
Is it too high of a rating to give it something like a 4? I really kind of enjoyed it. I liked how they were able to make a message film that was this entertaining. It had songs that were fun and didn't feel out of place. It sort of worked within the context of this film, of this universe, I guess, if you want to call it, that they created here. This is not a world that people or an entire town or a group of people breaking into song is unheard of.
Right.
This that just happens in this town.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of want to give it just like a good like 4 Othels because it's a good film.
It's your rating. Do what you want with it.
And especially for the historical context of it, is important of it is it is for a character like Roy Rogers to have met the horse that he'd be famous for riding. For this is the film that he gets his name, Roy Rogers, and the fact that he's able to then actually be Roy Rogers. I mean, this is how these films were put together and then later marketed and everything. He's Roy Rogers. He's going to go on to be Roy Rogers. And that is a name that is synonymous with Westerns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he actually eventually kind of gained the moniker King of the Cowboys.
And even if I think, you probably haven't lived in this country and not heard his name. I grew up in Colorado Springs, and at the Colorado Springs Zoo, I want to call it, shoot, I just lost the name of it. I want to say Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. I'm not sure that's right. But there's the Roy Rogers Shrine at the top of it. So as a kid, without ever having seen any Roy Rogers, I was aware of him. And so I think what you're saying is true for the historical context for cinematography, also for the history. Again, we already talked about political and economic history, and then also for Roy Rogers himself. This is the opening parentheses to a career in a genre and an era that is probably worth visiting. I think it'd be a lot of fun to see what the end parentheses of that is. I don't know off the top of my head what that would be. And I don't know that it's the last movie or the last TV show he did. Maybe it's the last of this type of Western that was made. But I think, as we were talking about it earlier, I had no idea what rating I was going to give it. I honestly hadn't even thought about it. But as we were talking earlier, I thought, this is probably 4 Othels for me because it just manages to do so much in such a short period of time. And it does it all without making you feel like there's something missing or something added that shouldn't be there. So, yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you. The 4 Othels, I think, is reasonable because it's kind of its own thing. I think if you were saying, hey, is this the best movie of this year? Probably not. But we're not looking at a dramatic film. We're not looking at a great epic romance film here. We're looking at something that is its own kind of unique thing and does what it sets out to do. So yeah, I'm with you. If you want to hang on to that 4, I'll add mine to it, and we'll call it a 4.
Yep.
And I think it would be a lot of fun to go for me, who I'm sure I saw some Roy Rogers clips when I was a kid without knowing what it was, but now that I know what it is, I think it'd be fun to go out and watch some more of these.
Yeah, I kind of want to go and dig up like the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans TV show and watch a little bit of it. And see if I remember, like, I've seen this one.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, I just want to go out and watch some more of that fierce horseback riding because it seems like I'd be really interested to know if he did his own stunts. There are a couple of long shots in this that are probably not him, but there's, a fight scene that's definitely him because you can see his face in it. There's, a couple of horse moments that are definitely him. It's so funny. There was a moment where he is practicing his speech, and then he just goes and gets back up on his horse. And I thought, man, he gets on a horse like a guy that knows how to get on a horse. So it's kind of silly, but it's kind of fun to watch. And then knowing just how famous Trigger was, I'd go back and rewatch this movie just for the horse.
It's a beautiful horse.
Yeah.
Trigger is a gorgeous animal.
Gorgeous. Now that I know that that's the same horse that made Marion rides in that Robin Hood, I have to go back and watch that again. I feel like that's a piece of trivia I heard at some point, but it didn't click for me because I didn't really have an awareness of Roy Rogers. So now I really need to go back and rewatch. And of course, that's such a great Robin Hood too.
Well, excellent. So yeah, 2 4s from us. I'm thrilled that you enjoyed this as much as I did, and it does make me kind of want to go and find more films in this era, more westerns, like this, more Roy Rogers films.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're ever going to find him doing a film where he's like the heavy, or that he's out, just shooting people left and right. I'm thinking
Right.
They're all. I feel like they're all going to be like this. They're just going to be he's going to be the aw shucks guy, with the white shirt that never gets dirty.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me curious to go watch some Gene Autry now that I know that this was not, whether it was good-natured competitiveness or there was some deep dark feud. It'd be fun to go back and watch some Gene Autry and just compare and see how they were similar and different.
Oh, I feel like I could just dive in and just get buried somewhere in the rabbit hole of Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, and the Lone Ranger.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Maybe we should do a triple feature, like a duke it out kind of a cage fight between the greats. I'm totally kidding about the cage fight part, but it could be a lot of fun to go back and watch some of that and compare and contrast and see, and then gosh, you could even stretch it a little bit and throw Zorro in there too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You are pretty much just hitting like this a big section of my childhood. My Saturday, Sunday afternoons had one of these people in it at some point,
Every time, yeah. So even if you don't go watch this movie, hopefully that sparked a memory for you guys of, oh yeah, I used to watch this or I used to watch that, and go back and watch it again, because we don't get movies like this, and we don't get characters like this anymore. I feel like everything's got to be so complex and complicated and, either political or, sexy or whatever. You don't just get like an honest story.
And it's so nice to have a hero and not the anti-hero.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the good guy.
And he's just a guy. He doesn't have to have been bitten by a spider or hit on the head with iron or, I don't know, tripped by a cricket. I don't know. But it is fun to see just people in the movies, just being people in movies. And you guys can quote me on that. I'm not sure that'll ever catch on, but you're allowed. People in movies being people in movies. That's our new tagline.
Yes. Excellent. All right, well then I guess that will do it for this episode. Should we go out singing Happy Trails?
Yeah. Let's talk about. I got to throw this in there. I love. There's a moment in here where he loses, where he fails and then has to try again, and I want to see more of those movies. I want to see more movies where we both get impromptu singing, and where they fail, but then they pick themselves up and go back again.
Yeah. He loses, but is not defeated.
Yeah.
So refreshing. Just like you were saying, it's so fun to see, and it just makes it such a watchable movie.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and on that note, here we go.
Yes.
Guys, ready?
Yeah. Do you actually know Happy Trails?
I don't. I can sing Happy Trails to you until we meet again. And that's the only part I know.
And it's Happy Trails to you.
Happy Trails.
Keep smiling
to you.
Until then.
Keep smiling until then. I think I've got that note wrong, but I'll pull out my ukulele and learn it.
All right, well, that will do it. Thanks, everybody. Lydia, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been fun.
This was a lot of fun. Bye, everybody.
Bye. I'm out here doing the little pistol shoots. I don't know what's going on with me right now. I'm staying awake. That's what I'm doing. I'm keeping myself awake.